The Realm Tree. Episode 29. Eventide.
Mom and I sat on the floor of a Night Realm cave, Jinx scratching at her ear while sitting on my lap. As one of many hideouts for those of us resisting my father here, it wasn't the most comfortable. After a few more minutes of waiting, Professor Dougherty emerged from deeper inside.
Apologies for the wait, everyone. With Vander off on another scouting mission, I have a lot of fairies to keep track of.
Those were the fairies you guys rescued from the tree, right? How are they? As someone who spent way too much time stuck in there myself, they've got my sympathy.
They're doing well. A tad overwhelmed by the whole situation, but their faces light up every time we tell them another barrier has dropped.
That's good to hear.
How can we help you, Professor?
Has there been any progress in finding my dad?
That's exactly why I wanted to speak to all of you. I haven't had any luck finding Cassius. Searching an entire realm to find one fairy has proven quite a slow process. So, respectfully, I was wondering if any of you had any insights as to where he could be hiding.
Well, he's not at our house. I know that much.
And he's not at the Night Crystal. I check back every few days.
I have a thought. There's a place in the Night Realm that Cassius always admired. It's a beach.
There are beaches in the Night Realm?
Yep, black sand and cold water. They're pretty neat.
Very picturesque.
Oh, I suppose I'm the only one surprised by this.
The water there is deep and dark enough to have a magnificent reflection of the moon. Cassius always found it spectacular to watch the moon on both the ground and in the heavens.
I see. Can you give me an approximate location on the map? From there, I'll survey it.
Of course, Professor.
My mom unrolled the map of the Night Realm the professor handed to her and pointed to an area close to where the borders between the Night and Autumn Realm met. Professor Dougherty traced a hand along his blue surveillance veins across the wall. His eyes glowed.
Well, this is peculiar. Usually I can peer flawlessly through any body of water in the realms, especially the larger ones. There's definitely a beach here, but it's murky.
Like there's a lot of mud or something?
No, my vision itself seems restricted. I don't know if it's some sort of counterspell or the nature of the water itself, but for some reason I can't peer through it.
Then we need to check it out in person.
Talia, if we could wait one more day for Vander to return, that would be wise. With his magic, he has the best chance at stealing the night fragment safely.
We'll just scout it and head right back. Are you cool with that, Mom?
I am. Finding him early could help catch him while he's vulnerable. We can't just sit on our hands and wait for everything to be perfect. If we see a way forward, we need to take it.
Violet, have I mentioned lately that you're in absolute joy?
You have, but I'll take the compliment.
Very well. Violet, Talia, Jinx, be cautious out there.
We move fast. Even with the military spread thin, we often had to duck into hiding to avoid soldiers patrolling the realm. But with my speed and my mom's wings, we found our way to the beach in a few hours. We stood before the water, colorful glints of crushed seashells visible against the black sand in the land and sea. Whoa, this place is amazing. How come you guys never took me here?
Cassius wanted to make this a special place for just the two of us. But after he betrayed my trust, I see no reason to keep his.
Hey, I love you.
I love you too, my girl.
Jinx, are you okay? You're shaking.
Something's weird about this place. Don't you feel it?
I don't. But let's keep our guard up and get out.
Suddenly, the force of gravity amplified on all of us. Before Jinx could even merge with me, we heard footsteps on the sand from down the beach. My father approached us with Stratus at his side.
Era, there's no need to restrain them. They know better than to face us right now.
Yes, sir.
With a head tilt from the red-eyed fairy, gravity returned to normal. As I looked up, I noticed the eye I slashed through on the top of the tree was partially closed, a scar running down it.
Trying to hold me down? You're gonna regret that, you little...
Jinx, stay calm. Stay ready.
Cassius, I'm glad that I still have a sense of your taste even though you've lost your mind. This truly is a beautiful beach to while away the days.
I'm doing far more than wasting time here, Violet. I've used all these years and resources to make something extraordinary.
My father reached into his robe and pulled out a solid black sphere. The ground beneath us started to shift.
Is this terramancy?
No, the ground isn't moving. Only the seashells are.
Seashells?
Yeah, the ground-up seashells mixed in with the sand.
Talia, I don't think those are seashells.
The black sphere lifted into the air. From all around the beach, a swirl of colors rose up from the sand as the crushed fairy jewels that dotted the beach collected around it. They came together in a constantly shifting galaxy of colors that hovered above us, held together by a faint green aura.
This is my life's work. A 7th realm crystal, containing equal power to the others, but independent in its own right. As of now, it is incomplete, but it only needs a few more jewels.
That aura swirling through it is biomancy.
He's holding it together using the spring powers he took from Mir. How many fairies did this take to create?
Far too many. Cassius, I don't care if it costs me my life. I will destroy that monstrous creation of yours.
I don't want to hurt you, Violet.
Oh, please. I don't even think you can.
The silver wings on my mom's back buzzed, and she flew right at the 7th crystal.
Don't you dare!
My mom was thrown to the ground by Era's gravity.
Mom!
Era! Don't harm her!
You do not disrespect the Sovereign like that! He's going to change the world.
My mom tried to stand up. Era clenched her hand into a fist, and there was a horrible cracking sound. Her hands shaking, my mother grabbed at her ribcage before collapsing to the ground. No!
Violet!
My father shoved Era aside and ran to my mom.
This is not part of the plan. Era! You disobeyed me.
She could have damaged the crystal, my lord. I didn't want our work to be undone.
She's alive, but she needs healing. I will not forget this setback.
The power of spring flowed through my father as he held my mother, repairing her wounds. Jinx, please tell me that she's okay.
I can't tell. It looks really bad.
I need uninterrupted use of biomancy to repair her wounds. Era, stand down!
My father's words fell on deaf ears.
Violet, stay with me.
Cradling my mother in his arms, my father flew off back towards the forest before the beach. Jinx and I were left alone with Era, the air around us swirling with the ground-up jewels of the 7th crystal. I'm going to crush you.
Be my guest.
I charged at Era, kicking off the sand. She quickly met my kick with a block, then pulled back to punch at my face. I dodged, but she clenched her fist and gravity exploded out from it, sending me sliding back across the beach. I stopped myself from hurtling away with my harpoon, stabbing it into the ground. Era flew at me again. I braced myself and she vanished. Where?
Surprise.
I felt a gravity-charged elbow strike my back. The power of Era's strike blasted me across the beach. I rolled to my feet, struggling to stand up. Okay, gravity magic strengthening your martial arts is one thing, but vanishing and reappearing like that is all new.
It could be invisibility. She is a day fairy after all.
Yeah, maybe she can only use it for a few seconds.
We can still take her. I've been powering up at the night crystal every day I could. Push yourself harder, and my powers will make sure you get where you need to go.
Right! I leapt into the air and twirled my harpoon overhead with both hands. I slammed it into the ground, sending a shockwave of shadow energy right for Era. She covered herself with her arms as I dashed towards her, raising my shadow-cloaked weapon. She vanished, but this time I was prepared. My weapon slashed across her breastplate. Got you!
Not yet!
She pulled back for a punch, an orb of gravity magic surrounding her fist. I stabbed my harpoon towards her, the magic from my weapon and her punch clashing in sparks of energy. Era made eye contact with me, and I felt the weight of my body amplify. Her powers forced me to the ground on my hands and knees.
Perish!
She swung her fist down against my back, slamming me into the ground, making a crater in the sand.
Talia!
Shakily, I stood up from the crater.
Go on. Keep struggling.
I felt gravity slam me to the ground again, face first. I forced myself up onto my hands, and once again Era slammed me down. Come on!
Your friends aren't here to help. If you were smart, you would surrender now. I know Sovereign Wick doesn't want you dead, but if you resist hard enough, I'm sure he'd forgive a little accident.
She placed her boot on my head.
Come on, Talia! Give me a reason to crush you!
You'll have to catch me first. Jinx's magic surged through me. My body sunk into the ground, merging with my own shadow, escaping the weight restraining me. In my new form, I slithered along the ground, emerging again as myself at the edge of the sand. I leapt across the water and dove into it. Era flew above the ocean, hovering further out and peering down.
Talia Wick! Is this some sort of trick? Or are you attempting to hide? Come up from the water! We have barely gotten...
I burst from the water, propelling myself towards Era using the mermaid tail that had replaced my legs.
What?
I leapt through the air and slammed the blunt end of my harpoon into Era's breastplate, knocking her off balance in the air.
Ah!
Crackling with Jinx's energy, I followed through with my strike to bat Era aside. I skidded along the surface of the water before wrapping my tail around one of the stray rocks poking out of its surface. I've got more tricks up my sleeve.
Tricks are nothing compared to power!
Era used both hands to throw a ball of gravity energy towards me. I dove for the water, but it exploded outwards, sending me in a straight horizontal path. I crashed onto dry land and rolled to my feet, my tail turning back into legs. Era flew right for me.
You die!
You first. I kicked off the ground to tackle Era out of the air, grabbing her waist and forcing her downwards. We tumbled together on the sand. When she tried to make eye contact with me again, I rolled off of her. We both stood up and exchanged a flurry of punches and kicks, Era using gravity to slow and dodge my attacks.
Talia, now!
Got it. Knocking Era back, I threw my harpoon high into the air. My hands free, I let my nails grow into long claws. What? I forced Era backwards slowly in a whirlwind of slashes and kicks. When my harpoon started to come back down from the air, I jumped for it, leaping high off the ground. I caught it and spun in the air to throw it point first down at Era. Her eyes widened in panic, but as I threw my weapon, I felt my arms shudder and stiffen. What? The precise throw became a wild toss, my harpoon spinning downwards. With the delay, Era was able to deflect it, her gravity sending it hurtling into the ocean behind us with a splash. No!
Interesting.
As I fell helpless in the air, Era launched me with her gravity as well. I crashed through the surface of the water. Shaking it off, I transformed my legs into a mermaid tail once again as I lingered near the bottom, trying to find my weapon.
Talia, what was that?
I don't know, my arm froze up.
Are you hurt?
I mean, yeah, all over, but my arm's not specifically in pain.
Whatever it was, just take a note of it. Let's find your weapon before Era finds us.
Right. Using my claws, I started digging through the sand underwater. No sign of my harpoon. I looked up to see Era walk near the edge of the shore.
All these new powers and you still need to hide. Well, that's just not fun!
Era raised her hands palm out towards the ocean. I felt water shift around me. What is she doing?
She's lifting the water with us inside it.
I felt myself rise into the air, lifted along with all the shallows on the beach by Era's magic.
Here you are. No more games!
Era crossed her hands over her chest and then swung them outwards, breaking the giant mass of water into 10 smaller spheres. I was stuck floating in one of the many liquid orbs hovering above the ground. Can't exactly swim out of this one. Jinx, what do we do?
We jump!
What do you mean?
Dodge!
I saw Era flying towards my suspended sphere of water with a punch. I swung my tail forcefully with Jinx's magic 3 times to launch myself out of my sphere, through the air and into another one. Era's charged punch hit water, scattering the sphere like a popped bubble.
Nice dodge, Talia. Now keep up the offensive. Don't give her the chance to hit you.
Right! I held myself through the air with my tail again, diving right for Era and turning my hands into claws. She She dodged to the side, but instead of slicing at her, I whipped my tail, wrapping it tightly around her abdomen. The weight of my body dragged us lower to the ground as she punched at my tail.
Let go!
Era created a gravity orb around her fist for another strike.
You sure you want to do that? I'll just let go and you'll punch yourself with all that power. I don't think that's how you want this to end.
You!
Take me to the ground, gently. We can start this from square one.
Era said nothing but continued to let us drift back to the ground. I finally saw my harpoon, wet and partially embedded in the sand. I slipped away, just barely dodging a strike from Era, and yanking my harpoon free, turning to face her. The stiffness in my arm returned and my head started to spin.
You look tired.
So do you.
Don't delude yourself into thinking you can win. You're out of tricks. But I have power to spare.
Even if I can't stop you, I know my friends will. They drop the barriers, and they'll destroy that 7th crystal too. The dizzy feeling in my head continued down my arm, becoming a pins and needles sensation as I gripped my weapon.
How long will it take for your allies to arrive? Hours? Days?
Doesn't matter. I'll give them all the time they need. Era's mouth curled into one of its rare smiles. The sensation in my arm was now 10 times worse, rippling out from a point on the back of my forearm.
Really now?
Talia, what's wrong?
Era, what did you do?
Not my doing. But it is a happy coincidence it's hitting you now. This seems to be a post-mortem surprise from my late associate, Callum Thorne.
From my forearm, a series of small mushrooms burst out of me, breaking through my skin. I dropped my harpoon as pain shot up my arm and through my body.
I told Callum not to let me down. So as he was beating you on the floor of the nightless cave, he planted these dormant mushrooms all over your pores to burst at a later date. I'll give the boy credit. At the end, he was useful.
I doubled over and clutched my arm, barely able to focus through the pain. Era approached me slowly with a wicked smile.
It's been fun, but your reckoning has finally arrived.
I shut my eyes as Era placed a palm on my skull.
Goodbye, Talia.
Away from her!
There was a sound of bone hitting bone. I opened my eyes to see Daisy's fist crash into Era's cheek. Time seemed to slow. Then, cloaked in her power aura, Daisy followed through with the punch, sending Era flying into the side of a sand dune.
Boom! That's what you get!
Daisy?
Hey, Atal! Got our fragment a little early, so I came looking for ya. Glad I finally found... Whoa! What's wrong with your arm?
Daisy knelt down and sent her healing energy into the burst area of my forearm. I watched the mushrooms get forced out of my body and onto the ground as the skin repaired itself. Hey there, Daisy. You're just in time.
Go on, take deep breaths. Catch me up while I patch you up.
Era and I are fighting.
Yeah, I figured that one out.
My dad's been using the jewels he collected to create a 7th realm crystal, and it's almost complete. Era went berserk and hurt my mom. My dad's healing her.
Well, that's confusing. Or is it?
I'm not sure either. There's still so much I don't understand.
Your arm should be better now. Try wiggling those fingers.
You really are a miracle worker, Days. I stood up to hold Daisy in a tight hug. What happened with you guys?
Getting the autumn fragment was super easy. Then we rushed over here right after to find you. Rondell and Lyndon should be here in a bit. They just got held up leading some soldiers away.
I'm happy, even if it's just you. Your timing really couldn't have been better.
Why, thank you. I do it for my fans.
Hey, not to break up the love fest, but this fight isn't over yet.
Aw, don't tell me Era got back up.
Well...
Era rose out of the dune, sand dripping off her armor as she staggered forward. Her hair was a mess, partially obscuring her wild eyes.
You will regret that. I will kill you. Both of you!
Tough talk from someone who's outnumbered and all sandy.
Erratic bursts of gravity exploded along the beach, blasting craters into the sand around us.
Look out!
I pulled Daisy to the side, narrowly avoiding one of the blasts. Daisy, you ready?
Always.
Then let's do this.
Ah!
We both ran for Era. I used Jinx's powers to dash ahead, dodging the gravity burst that chased me. Daisy took the opening to fly forward, swinging wildly at Era as she dodged. When Era tried to strike back, Daisy used her wings to carry herself up into a backflip. I dashed under her, landing a kick and slice against Era's abdomen. I dodged to the side and Daisy dove down from the air. She landed a powered-up punch into Era's breastplate, denting it. I sunk into my shadow to slide under Era and rose up behind her, using my arms to lock her in place. I held her while Daisy landed 5 more punches into her chest and abdomen.
This is what you get for being a murderer! Get back!
Gravity burst out from Era, knocking us both away. Daisy steadied herself with her wings, and I steadied myself with my harpoon. With a scowl, Era vanished. Oh, Daisy, watch out! She can turn invisible now!
She can what?
Era appeared behind Daisy and raised her palm to her shoulders. She blasted her far away, launching her over the water.
Ah!
Daisy! I dashed until I reached the water and jumped for it, morphing my legs into a mermaid tail again. I swam underneath Era, watching her and Daisy exchange punches in the air high above us. Can we make this jump?
I think we can. Let my magic carry you.
I swam deeper before aiming upwards, focusing Jinx's energy into my tail. I kicked with all the force I could to launch myself out of the water right at Era. I felt gravity from all directions restrain me mid-jump, holding me in place. I watched the same happen to Daisy, Era holding out her palms to freeze both of us in mid-air.
You two are formidable, but I can't allow you to defeat me. Forgive me, Sovereign.
Era dangled me high above the shore.
This is the end, Talia Wick! Fall! Die! Die! Die!
Era used her magic to throw me headfirst towards the ground far below.
No! I fought back as hard as I could against my invisible restraints. Talia plummeted fast, and I couldn't get to her.
I was falling. I wouldn't survive from this height. But I can't give up here.
There's no reason to neglect a team member when you're in it together like this.
And because we were worried.
Something's different about you, Talia.
I'm grateful for you, for saving me.
Believe in yourself like I believe in you.
You've amazed me, Talia. You haven't held us back at all.
What are you? What are you made of?
My darling angel, my beautiful girl. You are so, so special.
I've come too far to let it end like this. I need to live!
As she fell, Talia started to glow.
The scales on my mermaid tail started to unravel around me, changing their color and shape. I felt something emerge from my back. I turned my head to see the edges of sharp, black fairy wings. I felt the wind rush through them as they unfolded around me. No way. Wings!
Talia, you'll have time to admire them later.
Right. It was like instinct. My wings buzzed as I neared the ground, and they carried me back into the air. I spiraled upwards, the trail of Jinx's energy following me through the air.
It can't be! She did it!
I'm flying. I'm really flying!
I guess it's like your mother said. Amorphians can turn into fairies too. So it wasn't the test that gave you wings.
It was my mom. I'm gonna make her proud. I flew up towards Era and the restrained Daisy, leaving a careful distance between us in the air.
You!
Hey, guess what? I'm not out of tricks after all.
You. Everything you do. Everything you are. I despise it with every fiber of my being!
Era raised her hands above her head, creating a gravity orb between both palms.
I'm going to make sure there's nothing left!
Magic crackled off of her. As she pulled her arms apart, the orb grew larger and larger above her head. She heaved it back to throw at me. Red sparks shot up and down Era's body.
No, stop! No, stop, it's too much!
Era's body bent and contorted in the air. Out of her control, her face twisted in pain. Jinx, what's happening?
It looks like her magic is overwhelming her.
Even though she was still restrained, Daisy's eyes widened. The new powers? The tantrums? Could it be?
She had a third jewel implanted in her, like Ernest.
In one ear-splitting burst, the red sparks from Era's jewel burst into a shower of energy. Her eyes shut. She started to fall out of the sky. The gravity magic released Daisy, freeing her. I flew downwards to try and catch Era's falling body, flapping my wings as fast as I could. The air suddenly became cold, and I noticed a cloud of snowflakes gathering underneath her, slowing her descent. Huh? I flapped my wings slower and landed softly on the sand. Daisy landed next to me. We turned to see Professor Dougherty manipulating the cloud of snow, carrying Era gently to the ground.
Cryomancy is not my specialty, but it looks like I've still got it.
Professor Dougherty!
Ah, hello, Miss Demeter. Glad to see you safe.
Sorry, Professor. We must have worried you.
You certainly did. I would very much like to be filled in on everything. I think the first order of business is her.
We all looked to Era as Professor Dougherty's cloud of snow lowered her onto the sand. Daisy ran over to Era and knelt beside her. She pressed 2 fingers against her throat.
No pulse. She's dead.
Goodness me.
Are there 3 jewels on her?
Yeah. The one between her shoulder blades, then 2 others. It looks like the third one is new, maybe shadow stitched in the last few weeks.
Professor Dougherty approached Era as well.
Horrific. That's a very dangerous amount of magic. In the case of Cassius, he has the strength of 2 realm beasts inside him, which could mitigate the strain of all his jewels. But for a normal fairy, even someone as strong as Miss Stratus, it's a miracle she lasted this long.
Damn it.
She must have known. She must have known what 3 jewels does to someone. She sent Ernest after us, and he was a mindless fire monster by the time we fought him.
I guess she really would do anything for your dad.
The image of Sai's body on the floor of the Nightless Cave flashed in my head, the sunlight streaming down on her as she passed, and Era, without any sympathy, standing over her.
Hey, Talia?
Huh?
You're thinking about something. What is it?
I'm thinking about Era. It's just, if I had powers, and was raised by my dad instead of my mom, would I have ended up like her? Daisy took a sharp inhale and stood up to face me.
I don't know who you would have become if you were raised by your dad. Nobody has any way of knowing that. But I'm happy to know this version of Talia. The version that fought for her place in the world, even when the world didn't believe in her. For me, that's enough.
Okay. Thanks, Daisy.
No prob.
Not to interrupt, but I have another question. About that.
Professor Dougherty indicated the floating black sphere and the jewel dust swirling around us. That's what my dad's been using the jewels for. He's calling it the 7th crystal. It's not done, and I don't know what he wants to do with it.
That's certainly foreboding.
Can we destroy it?
Maybe. Era stopped us from getting too far, and then my dad ran off to heal my mom.
I can examine this 7th crystal and see if there's some way to safely ensure its destruction.
That would be great. Talia, I think we should go try and find your parents now.
Yeah. First, Professor, Do you have a way to send a beacon of some kind? Other fairies might be looking for us.
Yes, simple enough. And Talia, one more thing before you go.
We'll be careful. Don't worry.
Well, good. But I really just wanted to echo Miss Demeter's sentiment. I was overjoyed to see you flying. Be proud of how far you've come. That's all. I may be old, but I'm not eloquent or concise. I'm working on it.
Hey, you sound good to me. Thanks, Professor. That means a lot.
Anytime. Now go get your mother back.
Daisy and I wandered off the beach and back into the forests and hills of night. We found my father standing over a flat and mossy stone. My mom laid across it with her eyes closed. Father!
Don't interrupt, Talia. This is a very important operation.
The aura of green healing energy continued pouring into my mother for a few more seconds. With her breath steady again, my father slowly turned to face us.
There. She will be fine, once she has the opportunity for more rest. I hope you and Era know you almost cost Violet her life.
Don't you put this on her, you...
Excuse me! I was speaking to my daughter.
Daisy glared daggers at my father. Dad, after all of this, why did you work so hard to save Mom?
Because she is my wife, and I love her. No amount of fighting could change that. I desire her safety and protection.
Then why didn't you get scared for Talia's well-being all those times she's been fighting for her life? And what about Era, the other fairy you raised? Why have you been so content sitting in your ivory tower while fairies fight each other to the death over your ideals?
Daisy.
I'm sorry, Talia, but I'm very, very angry at this whole I sacrifice lives for the greater good thing because it's not any type of greater good if it kills people. Did you know that Era is dead? Because of the jewels you implanted in her? She lost her life fighting to protect your crystal.
It was always a possibility. She knew the risks.
She followed your commands without question because of how you brought her up. You can't just shrug off responsibility at who she became. She completely dedicated herself to your schemes. She strengthened herself even at the cost of her body and mind, and then she died for you. Do you feel anything? Anything at all?
I don't have time to be held back by how I feel. The plan takes priority. Other strong fairies can take her place.
Wow! I knew you were bad, but I didn't know you were this bad. I don't know how you go through life seeing people only as how strong their magic or whatever is. And even then, Talia's risen so far above all the expectations you placed on her. She has wings! And you still don't care! I'm going to stand by Talia's side even if you never will. Because if she can't have a father, she can at least have a sister!
Tears blurred my eyes. My father's face became cold but thoughtful.
Now I understand why my endeavor has been such a struggle. This isn't the fault of the plan itself. It largely went off without a hitch. Every life I took was for the greater good. Every jewel was for the 7th crystal, and the protection it would give the realms. But a little wrench appeared in my plans long ago, and it yielded this horrific chain reaction. This wasn't because of Talia, or Violet, or Dougherty. It was you, Daisy Demeter.
Me? How am I the reason your evil plans didn't work out so well?
You corrupted my daughter. You gave her the idea to rebel against me. I should never have let her get close to you. But it's not too late. I can still correct my mistakes.
Dad, we don't have to do this. Please, just... From my father's finger, 4 razor-thin strings of shadow flew towards Daisy. They pierced her through the heart and chest. She looked down slowly as blood started to stain her shirt, soaking it red. The shadows retracted into my dad's finger, and he fled deeper into the forest, carrying my mother's body. Daisy! I ran to Daisy and caught her in my arms. I turned her over and was met with wide eyes and short breaths. Oh no. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Blood started to trickle out of the side of her mouth. I helped Daisy move her hand up to the wound in her chest.
Talia.
Daisy, I can't heal you. You have to do that yourself. Come on. We can do this, but you have to move fast. Heal yourself. Please.
Okay.
Faint green energy flowed from Daisy's fingertips, but it dissipated into the air.
Can't.
Daisy, please. You can do this. Just heal yourself.
Talia, those strings pierce through her jewel too. She can't heal those wounds. I'm so sorry.
What? No!
Hey. I love you, Tal.
Please, Daisy. Please, don't go.
I'm so proud of you.
In my arms, her breathing stopped. Daisy? Daisy?
Tune in next time for the finale of The Realm Tree.